Welcome, ladies and gents. Captain America Brave New World is looking like it's actually going to end up being a pretty big failure for Marvel. It is now predicted to drop around 70% for its second weekend, which actually isn't anywhere near as bad as I thought it was going to be. And because it sounds like a really high number, 60% is actually the average drop for a Marvel movie. It's why that opening weekend is so important. It's so essential that they get lots of money in that first weekend, because they always tail off quite quickly. The Marvel machine works on FOMO. You've got a fear of missing out that first weekend. You've got to get in, got to get that spoilers, got to do it, got to be part of the gang, so you can all talk about it on Monday morning, and then it sort of peters off from there. The average is a 60% drop off. So 70% is not. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. It's still pretty bad. It's 10% above the average. But it's bad, or even worse, when you pair it with the fact that they didn't do a very good opening weekend numbers. So the possibility of this film ending up around the $400 million range for its box office total is very, very likely, actually. When you adjust it all for inflation, that'll actually be the least out of the entire Captain America franchise, because it's a sub-franchise within Marvel, isn't it? So we're going to take a look at this. Please do hit subscribe if you are new here, or indeed a returning viewer. Lots of you have done that. You've answered the call, and I can't thank you enough. It really has helped the channel out quite a lot. So again, if you want to, great. If not, no worries. But thank you in advance, and thank you for bearing with me. So it says this: Captain America Brave New World predicted to have 70% drop in second weekend, tracking for one of Marvel's worst box office performances. It's not. I mean, the worst is the Marvels. That was just obscenely bad. I'll leave this article linked down below as well. It says this: the legacy media called it a $100 million opening weekend, and despite their sneaky use of 5 days to count it as a first weekend, they counted 5 days, and they're like, "Oh, the opening weekend was so high, mate. It was a week." It was 5 days. It was a working week. Unbelievable. Just crazy. But anyway, as a result, Captain America Brave New World is on track for one of the steepest second week drops in the history of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Projections indicate that the film will plummet around 70% in domestic earnings, which will mean that it will take in just about $30 million in its second weekend, which is crazy. That's terrible. So if this trajectory holds, its worldwide haul for the second weekend will struggle to surpass 50. That's a typo. But basically, its long-term goal in terms of box office, it's unlikely to hit. I think it's unlikely to hit the $400 million range. If this drop-off is actually what's going to happen, this is the thing. It's only a prediction at this point in time. If the drop-off is what everyone thinks it's going to, what these people think it's going to be, box office predictions. Yeah, 400 million is about right, which is really bad. Jesus, that's bad. And it says this will go down as one of Marvel Studios' biggest misfires and an outright embarrassment for the once unshakable franchise. It will be pretty embarrassing. It'll be pretty bad for them. It's more the amount of money they're going to be losing on it than anything else. That's the issue. So the projected 70% drop is among the worst declines ever for an MCU film, placing Brave New World in the same company as the Marvels that did 78% drop, which is crazy. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was a 70% drop as well, but it had a higher first weekend. So that's, you got to look at it multifaceted. So the latter struggled to sustain momentum after its opening weekend, ultimately failing to turn a significant profit, and Brave New World now appears to be headed down a similar path. While high second weekend drop-offs have become more common in the post-pandemic era, the magnitude of this decline signals deeper concerns for the film and the broader MCU brand. Again, the important thing is, this article was like, it's pretty normal for movies to have a second weekend drop-off that's quite high. That is true, and it's very, very normal for a Marvel movie to have a high second weekend drop, because 60% is the average. But you have to have a big opening weekend, and this is still above that already big average that they drop off, and that's why their first weekends matter so much. It's pretty goddamn bad. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for them. So even when excluding The additional day from the President's Day holiday weekend, the film's adjusted 3-day debut of $88 million would still result in a troubling 66% drop. That's still, above the average. So that kind of decline typically indicates weak word of mouth and lack of repeat viewings, or a general loss of audience interest, none of which bode well for the film's overall run. Again, 66% puts it in the lowest of the low MCU company, perhaps even worse. Brave New World is performing better domestically than internationally. Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. So, just as an FYI, Civil War, 1.15 billion worldwide. Winter Soldier and the first Avenger was 714 million and 370 million respectively. You adjust 370 for inflation, it's obviously above $400 million. And I think this film's going to struggle to do that. I think this film will struggle to hit the $400 million range. And I will say this as well, so now it's rated rotten on Rotten Tomatoes as well. It had a B- cinema score, which is like an audience tracker. I think the people have had enough. People have had enough of this stuff, right? They've not had enough of Marvel overall. Marvel could come out with a banger and people would be back on board again. But the problem is that Marvel has coasted for far too long on the idea that they can just release slop that's an advert for another movie, or slop that is merely exposition for the next movie, and then people will buy into it. People have stopped that now. People have had enough. We've seen this time and time again from Marvel. So I do think there's an element of apathy setting in from fans and the audience just generally. And Marvel, like I said, they coasted for far too long doing this kind of stuff. They need to start making better products. I will say this. I don't think this movie. I think this movie will struggle to hit $400 million. However, and then you got Thunderbolts. That's going to bomb. I don't think that's going to do very, very well. And then you've got Fantastic Four. I actually think Fantastic Four is not going to perform great either. I think it won't be until you get to Avengers when they have that as the name brand again. That I think people will respond to that. I think that's going to be the next hit is the Avengers. I think it's Avengers Doomsday, isn't it? So there you go. That's my predictions. What do you think? Let me know down below. Take care. Bye-bye now.